Students love to learn new, modern, fun, everyday expressions in French. And recently a student suggested me to do a lesson on how to say being stupid, because you want to speak like a grown-up and sometimes a situation is pretty ridiculous. And he told me about being a sandwich short of a picnic. I had to read this one because even for me it's tricky. And I promised I would do a lesson on how to say stupid in French with expressions. So this is what you will learn today. Bonjour, I'm Géraldine, your French teacher. Welcome to Comme in Française. I'm going to help you speak everyday modern French with confidence. Today we're going to really learn new expressions in French that can be tricky to use. So if you're a beginner, just try to understand the French expressions. If you're intermediate, learn all the expressions. That's useful for your everyday spoken French. And if you're advanced, try to study the examples as well and try to notice what is new to you. The first one is pretty funny because you can imagine it, is être bercé trop près du mur. So we would use it in a sentence. For example, tu as été bercé trop près du mur. So you've been cradled too close to the wall. So something happened to your head. Tu as été bercé trop près du mur. So it's very literal. You can easily understand. And even though it implies child neglect, which is not something that we think is fun at all, but just it implies that something is wrong with your head. And it's more of a joke between friends. You should not take it too seriously, but it's a funny way to say you're being stupid or you're stupid. For example, parfois je me demande si tu as été bercé trop près du mur. Parfois, sometimes, je me demande si tu as été bercé trop près du mur. Sometimes I wonder if you've been cradled too close to the wall. So you see, it's more of a joke between friends. I don't think it's a big insult because it's not. We're going to see others later. It's just a joke, and honestly, if you hear someone using that or if you use it, they're going to smile when you speak because it's pretty impressive to have people know this one. Our second example for today is bête comme ses pieds. Bête comme ses pieds. As you can notice here, I don't say the D, you can hear it. I say bête comme ses pieds. So the D is in pied is silent. Bête comme ses pieds, literally dumb as your feet, is literally dumb as a rock. Okay, so you just compare being dumb to anything that doesn't have a brain, but indeed, bête comme ses pieds, dumb as a rock. You have to be careful here because in bête comme ses pieds, the se has to agree with who you're talking about or who is talking. Okay, so the se becomes mais, toit, etc. Okay, bête comme ses pieds is a generic. For example, t'es encore sorti sans tes clés, mais t'es bête comme tes pieds. Tu es encore sorti sans tes clés. You went out without your keys again. Mais t'es bête comme tes pieds. Mais t'es bête comme tes pieds. Well, you're dumb as a rock. Okay? So you can notice here that because I'm talking to someone, I say tu, I say bête comme tes pieds. Dumb as your feet. Our third one is tricky because you probably learned something different at school. We say con comme un balai. Con comme un balai is dumb as a broomstick. Con comme un balai. Un balai is a broomstick. However, you might have learned at school that con is an insult and un gros mot. It's a bad word. Do you say that in English? It's a swearing, okay? It's a way to swear. So, con is an insult, but as in many expressions in French, if you put it in a certain context, it doesn't become as bad as it can be on its own, which is very tricky, but yes. So, con comme un balai is not as bad as saying someone is con, okay? It's more affectionate in a way. So we say con comme un balai, dumb as a broomstick. For example, Michel est gentil, mais il est con comme un balai. Michel est gentil, mais il est con comme un balai. Poor Michel. He takes so many bad things in Comme in français. It's just a generic name, it's no one in particular. So, Michel est gentil, mais il est con comme un balai. Michel is nice, but he's dumb as a broomstick. Another one is bas-de-plafond, which makes me laugh because I'm very tall, so to me, lots of ceilings are very low in all houses. So bas-de-plafond is having a low ceiling. So the ceiling is le plafond, and le toit is the roof, okay? We say un toit for a roof, un toit. But le plafond is the ceiling. So bas-de-plafond means having a low ceiling, and it means that you're a bit stupid. You're not very bright. Bas-de-plafond, and it's an adjective, okay? You can use it as a noun as well. Bas-de-plafond. Bas-de-plafond. And in everyday spoken French, you can notice that I remove the E and I say bas-de-plafond. Bas-de-plafond. So for example, c'est encore un discours bas-de-plafond. C'est encore un discours bas-de-plafond. Because obviously, you could use these expressions to say stupid, to talk about ideas or discourse or any kind of other thing that someone, because sometimes an idea is stupid, it's not necessarily the person. So it's still a dumb, low quality speech. C'est un discours bas-de-plafond. It means that the idea in it are a bit stupid and not very bright and are very low quality. C'est un discours bas-de-plafond. Bas fute-fute is something I love because it's based on this repetition that we have in French. So you might know that futé maybe means clever. Futé is clever. And pas futé is not very clever. Okay, pas futé is not clever. And pas fute-fute is a bit stupid because we're going to double the adjective. And this makes it more nice and affectionate. So, pas fute-fute is a familiar way to say not very clever. Pas fute-fute. And I love it because it's funny in the mouth as well. Pas fute-fute. So, pas fute-fute. You don't say fute-fute on its own to say something is clever. No, just you use it to say that something is not clever. Pas fute-fute. For example, elle est gentille, mais elle est pas fute-fute. Elle est gentille, mais elle est pas fute-fute. Again, she's nice, but she's not very clever. Elle est gentille, mais elle est pas fute-fute. If you're a bit advanced here, you might have noticed that I didn't do la liaison with mais. You can absolutely do it, that's fine. And the last one actually might be the most important for today because it's such a cause for embarrassing mistakes. Is brave. Brave. Because in English, brave means someone who actually is brave, has courage, is going to do lots of big things. But actually in French, brave does not have this meaning. And as you can guess from the topic of the lesson, it means can do lots of things, but is not very bright, okay? And we usually use bien brave in order to make this expression better. So lots of students are going to translate brave into brave because they learned it in the dictionary, but actually does not mean that at all. So for example, Michel, ouais, il est bien brave. Michel, ouais, il est bien brave. So Michel, yeah, he's okay. He's a bit stupid, okay? So this idea of bien brave is really nice, helpful, but not very bright. And that's the topic of the full lesson, so you might have guessed. So be careful when you're using brave. You can use courageux instead. Courageux, that's the actual meaning in French for brave. And before we go, we did a lesson on how to say stupid, but sometimes people have actual mental health issues and they're unwell, and the words that you're going to use are those. So the first one is fou, which is a literal translation for crazy, which is not a good way to talk about people with really bad mental health issues, but it's the word that you're going to use or the translation you're going to use when someone wants to translate crazy, also in a positive way. So fou, Fou is the translation for crazy, and it's an adjective or a noun. Also, they're expressions that you're going to hear when people are actually unwell. For example, il n'a plus toute sa tête. Il n'a plus toute sa tête. He doesn't have his whole head anymore. Means that he's unwell, he's not himself. He's losing his mind. Il n'a plus toute sa tête. Il n'a plus toute sa tête. And this applies to someone who is going through a memory loss, for example, as you see what I'm talking about. It's not something that is funny at all. It's not a funny expression. It might be to talk about someone who is going through some mental health issue indeed. There's another one that is a bit more funny, to mock someone who is a bit crazy. It's il a une araignée au plafond. This can be used to mock someone or not. It's just depending on the context, okay? Il a une araignée au plafond. It's a way to say fou. Il a une araignée au plafond. So he's crazy. Il a une araignée au plafond. Again, this can be something literal, that someone is actually sick, or just someone a bit crazy with fun ideas. The third one is il a une case en moins. Il a une case en moins. Il a une case en moins. He's missing a case. So he's missing some area in his brain. So something is missing in his brain. So in French we saw bercé trop près du mur. We saw bête comme ses pieds. We saw comme un balai. We saw bas-de-plafond. We saw pas fute-fute. And we saw bien brave. And at the end, we also saw different ways to say fou, which are a way to sometimes talk about mental illness as well. If you love to add more colors to your French and learn new everyday spoken French expressions, you should check out this playlist that I made for you. You're going to learn new expressions about several topics, which are a very good way to have a more authentic and fluent French ready for the 21st century as well. So check them out, it's completely free, and I'm going to see you in the next video. À tout de suite.